Welcome back to SouFLoTV again, everybody. It's your host with the most. So, we've done videos here before where we talk about working hard for your honest bread and not having to look over your shoulder and worry about losing everything you've earned because you earned it legally. Anyways, last week we did a video where we talked about scammers and how the US government was planning to, matter of fact, they've started doing it already, to go down to Jamaica and seize properties like all these unfinished houses. The first thing a man do when he make a whole heap of money, him say, build up a big house and these kind of things. Well, they're taking the house, land, property, cars, everything must go. Jewelry, clothing, everything. In this case, it's a Jamaican drug dealer. The headline says court orders forfeiture of nearly $200 million in assets linked to drug kingpin Dido. Alright, first of all, I never heard anything of this Dido person. The Supreme Court has ordered that nearly $200 million in assets and properties that are linked to drug kingpin Norris Dido Nembard should be forfeited to the government. So in other words, simple layman terms, all this material stuff will be turned over to the government. I'm wondering what they're going to do with all this stuff. They're probably going to divide it up amongst themselves. On a side note, do you know that in the US there are police departments that are allowed to keep whatever it is they find in a drug bust? Say for instance, if you're a drug dealer that lives in the neighborhood somewhere close by and you have accumulated, you have a safe in your house and the safe has, say, $50,000 in it, and outside you have a nice Mercedes Benz. If they can prove that your money is coming from drugs, they're allowed to take that property, the car, the cash, and it is split up off the FID. The following year, the ARA obtained a default judgment for the forfeiture of the properties after Nembard failed to file a defense, the FID said. So it's under technicality that they are able to seize all this property. The following year, the ARA obtained a default judgment for the forfeiture of the properties after Nembard failed to file a defense. However, he subsequently filed an application asking the court to set aside the default judgment. According to the FID, the court is refusing the application and said that Nembard had provided no evidence to account for the 5-year delay in challenging the application by the FID, which was first made in 2011. The court found too that the convicted drug kingpin did not show that he had a real prospect of successfully defending the claim, the FID said. So in other words, I don't think he had any money trail, legal money trail stacked up to show earnings to have accumulated all this. So they can easily connect it to his drugs business. Nembard was one of several Jamaicans designated as drug kingpins by then US President George Bush. This was in 2004. He subsequently pled guilty to narcotic charges along with compatriots Rob Roy Williams, Glenford Williams, Herbert Henry, and Vivian Daly. Nembard was sentenced to 13 years in prison by U.S. District Judge Susan Buckley. He was released in 2015. Court documents, including the plea agreement signed by the 5 Jamaicans and their Colombian co-accused Luis Miguel Avila Arias, indicated that the group used Jamaican waters as a transshipment point for cocaine moving from Colombia to the USA. Now, I did a video recently where I spoke about that as well, because not everybody is not everybody knows about the ins and outs of this drug thing. I'm not saying I know about the ins and outs, but I know that Jamaica's waterways, that's a main point for a lot of things, especially for illegal guns coming into the country and for drugs moving in and out, right? We are at a perfect position, they call it. We are at a perfect position to be used as a transshipment point, which is exactly what Mr. Nembard here was caught up in. And it still happens today. There's a lot of drugs moving through Jamaica. So sometimes when we talk about how, yeah man, the politicians them, they need to secure the waterways because there are no gun factories in Jamaica, yet so many guns and these high powered rifles too. Some of them criminals that have real money in Jamaica have an armory of weapons, an arsenal of weapons that are more high powered and well equipped than even our law enforcement forces. These did not come in through legal ways. Okay? So securing the waterways would prevent a lot of things from happening or coming into the country, but we must also take a wild guess that it might be benefiting somebody hugely for them to make sure that those waterways remain unsecured, if you know what I mean. So, continuing with this story now, the documents which were cited in a statement released by the U.S. Attorney for the Middle District of Florida, Robert O'Neill, indicated that Rob Roy Williams and Nembard received loads of cocaine transported via go-fast vessels from Colombia, ranging from 600 to 1,200 kilos of cocaine per pop. Let that number sink in. 600 kilos of cocaine, that's a lot. 1,200 kilos of cocaine, that's a lot. Every go. And it was done by speedboats. I remember somebody said to me, yo, SouFlo, a easy thing that, man. Remember, say, hated the right the sign, and them just jump on a speedboat late in the night time, pay off who they got to pay off out there in the waters. They have a lookout for them, and zoom, in no time, in less than an hour, you're in Haiti. Zoom, less than an hour, you're back in Jamaica. Done switch up what you got to switch up and everything. So, let also that sink in. 600 to 1,200 kilos per pop. The loads of cocaine were received by Williams and others at various beach locations in Jamaica and stored at rural stash houses locations for later distribution in Jamaica and eventually into the United States, the statement said. Now, they're saying that the cocaine would come in, they would pick it up on different beaches at different beach points, and then it would be stored in rural areas. That mean in some country place, like way in a Backbush or Clarendon or somewhere like that, right? In different stash houses, and it would sit there until it was time for it to be distributed. Alright, this I go sell here in Jamaica. You get your cut out of this. Alright, this amount need to move forward. So this is the transshipment point. Now we have to package it the right way according to regulations, their regulations, and ship it off into the US. Now, that is how it worked. I am guessing. Now remember, we talk about FBI planting foot in Jamaica. There's no secret that CIA agents are there and active. And I'm sure the DEA, the drug enforcement agencies, are working right along with them. So you have FBI, CIA, and DEA, right? Jamaica doesn't have to worry about monitoring its waterways. The FBI, CIA, and the DEA are probably doing a perfect job at that. The thing about this story, to me, that's intriguing is this. This wasn't a small fry that got caught and got squeezed into telling on other small fries, hoping that he would turn over the kingpin. This was the kingpin himself, right? And if you look at the loads that were coming in, speedboats, 600 to 1,200 kilos every trip. I'm thinking these agents sat around monitoring them for quite some time. How else would they know all this? How much came in per trip, the multiple stash houses, the pickup from multiple beach locations, and all that. You have to be wise what you're doing out there. You're always being watched. Remember that. The other thing about this is we did another story again the other day where we talked about the Haitians that were let go. So it was proven that they came into the country illegally because they had no papers and no explanation as to how they got in. Yet they were found in a house, a couple of men, I believe it was 4 or 5 of them, I don't remember, the story is still on the channel, men in one room at some house in Jamaica, right? And it was up in some country place, I believe it was Clarendon, I'm not sure. To revisit that story though, when police ran in on them at that house, they found quite a large amount of drugs wrapped up in a knapsack bag, we call it, a backpack. And of course a lot of people are saying these are the Haitians that come. They come through, them drop off the drugs, or them drop off the gun, them take the drugs and they leave, or they drop off the vice versa. So it's the guns for drugs trade, or the guns for meat, or drugs for meat, whatever that trade is. But surprisingly, they were let go. They weren't even let go with a deportation order. They were just let go on their own reconnaissance. They were just let go on their own and told to leave the country. And they were able to hire representation of a high-powered attorney. So you do the maths to that. Now, like I said before, we already know what's going on out there with the waterways, right? And we're thinking it benefits someone in a position of authority to keep it going exactly as it is going now. Now, let this be a warning. Let this be a warning because, again, this is no small fry. I don't know nobody that have 200 million US dollars worth of assets. I don't even know nobody that really have 1 million US dollars worth of assets, much less 200 million worth to seize. Now, this man is out of prison and free, but I'm willing to bet that he is doing just fine financially. Because as much as them sees 200 million, he probably have a like a 50 or 100 million stashed up somewhere else in offshore accounts. Anyways, let me end this right here. Leave your comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this story. You already know. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm out. Peace.